hello, health heads. Welcome and thank you for checking in to this dose of the Healthcare Uprising. I'm your producer, Jeremy Carr, here with your host, Heather Pierce, with a much anticipated episode of the Healthcare Uprising. So, what is on our agenda for today, Heather?
I'm so excited. We finally got a death doula, you guys.
Yeah, I've been waiting a year for this.
Yeah, so we got Dana, the death doula, Dana Zayac. She's from the Portland area, formerly currently a hospice nurse as well, which led her into this work. We have been talking about bringing a death doula on since we started talking about the birth doulas,
which was episode 10.
Yeah,
this is episode 71.
Yeah, so we finally got one, guys. So
we got it.
We're going to unveil the mystery of the death doula and tell you why you might want one or somebody that you love. So anyway, with that,
it really is quite the thing.
Yeah,
it really is. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here's our conversation with Dana Zayac, the death doula.
Hi, and welcome to the Healthcare Uprising podcast. Today we have with us Dana Zayac, the death doula. Dana, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here with you all.
Yes, and we wish we were sitting where you are right now because it looks absolutely amazing. Yes, so
one of the more wonderful settings we've seen for our guests.
I don't know. I think she might win. So and Dana, you're up in the Portland area, right?
Yes, I'm in Portland in a neighborhood called North Tabor, and I thought to myself, where will I feel most myself, most grounded? And then the aesthetics is just a bonus. So yeah, it's good setting.
For those on YouTube, they can see what we're talking about. For the rest of them, she's basically sitting in the woods.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I love it. Let's all zen out and enjoy the nature. We talk a lot about that here on the show. We love nature. We like being out in the woods, and
that's why we're based in Flagstaff.
Exactly. So lot of friends between Portland and Flagstaff. For those of you listening that don't know these areas, there's like so much connection between these communities. So
yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Like Austin, Texas, I feel like that's another. We're all wonderfully weird people.
Yes, we're all the cool people hang out.
Islands of weirdness.
It is kind of like that. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, with that, let's get into the maybe not so weirdness, but we're going to actually take things out of maybe feeling or sounding weird. The concept of a death doula, that a lot of people have probably never even heard of it before, or if you have heard of it, you have absolutely you have no idea what it means, or unless you've seen the show The Pit. Okay.
Have they done that on there?
They have a death doula on, and so I don't want to give you any more than that, but a death doula is a character in the show, which I loved that it was, shining a little light on the work, this really important work that you do and growing work. So with that, Dana, tell us about what you do. What is a death doula? What brought you to this work? I love your story about kind of your pathway for finding this space.
Yeah, totally. So gosh, it's one of those where do I start answers, like many. But I have been a nurse going on 11 years. I have been in various nursing settings as an RN, and about 3-4 years ago, I switched to hospice care, and that was like such a beautiful milestone in my life, and I've just been in love with the work I do since. And then a few years ago, I don't remember the year because time is weird, but sometime in March a few years ago, I had such a beautiful opportunity to go get trained as a death doula with the fantastic Alua Arthur. I went on a retreat where I deep dove with, how many, 40 some plus beautiful souls, and really began learning what it means to be a death doula. And spoiler alert, the first step is really getting super comfy and curious with your own mortality. So that was
Makes sense
start for me. Yeah. So it's been a few years now as like an RN/death doula in the world.
Got it. Okay. So interesting, right? Like, you were a nurse. I'm slightly not surprised by this, that you were in hospice before, that feels like almost a natural transition to some degree. Did it feel that way for you?
Yeah, totally. It all kind of came together in a way that just it was like once I realized that I wanted to embark on this journey, I was like, oh yeah, of course. Like, yeah, there's the nurse skill set. Um, in 2022, I quit my nurse job, went to Costa Rica, and got yoga teacher training, and then
Nice.
went into hospice. And then so the doula part was just like, of course, like it's like my all my skills kind of coming together and really diving deeper into my spiritual self, being able to hold people in that way.
That's great. I feel like anyone who goes to Costa Rica comes back a wonderfully changed human. And
Yeah,
we all just need to go to Costa Rica for something that like fills our soul, right?
totally. Yes. Yeah, not unlike many of us in that time, the COVID portal of just like there were a lot of folks that like, okay, now what, right? Like let me get really honest with myself of like where do I want to go, what direction. So that did help kind of like bring me to a crossroads, and I'm so
That's
grateful that it brought
that's
me
when
to
I
where
started my first podcast,
Hey, see, we were,
and here we are.
look at
totally.
us. Look at us now.
So
Yes.
I think I might know some of this already, but could you clarify on the what distinguishes a hospice worker from a death doula? What's the real differences there? What are their
Yeah.
different roles in the process?
Yeah. So as a for me, for example, as a nurse, as a hospice nurse, I am, yeah, in my full nursing role. So I'm assessing, I'm medicating, I'm, yeah, treating, and just as a nurse tends to do, just like holistic support, but within the healthcare system specifically. Um, and that being said, same for, yeah, hospice physicians and social workers, chaplains, although chaplains are such beautiful anchors, everything we need in hospice because they're basically doulas of hospice naturally,
Mhm.
right? They're like doing all of that powerful work and carving out time to listen if they have a supportive team as much as they can. And so
I've
like,
met a few, and they're very interesting people in my
yeah,
experience.
beautiful,
Hmm.
interesting humans
Yeah.
are such a blessing. So then when you talk about doula work, there is a lot of untangling to do there. So for me, just for example, nurses are quite literally trained to assess and fix. As a doula, you're untangling that. So you're going in not with the intention of fixing, quite the opposite. You're in there and you're observing and you're holding space and you're parsing out your biases as much as you can, you're centering. And I mean, nurses should be doing this too, but like centering the patient, the client as much as you can, and really being a witness to their experience. And there can, of course, be some beautiful advocacy that could be done as a doula as well, and like education. And that's really, really powerful too, but not with the intention of like having any agenda and just really like being attuned to the dying person. Like, what do they need? What do they desire? How can I meet them where they're at?
Do you find that people that come to you, right, initially, are they not really sure about what they need? And then you can kind of answer that because now you've been doing it for a while. Like, so like what does it look like for someone working with a death doula? How do you show up for the families, the loved ones, the actual individual themselves?
Totally. Yeah, to answer your first question there, it's incredibly common for folks to not really know what they need or want. Even those that are like, you aren't surprised they're reaching out to a death doula. They have a certain way of moving through the world. They're kind of always questioning maybe the medical system in beautiful ways and just like wanting to have a different experience. And when they hear what a death doula is, they're like, yes, like I would love that holistic, spiritual, not always, but spiritual by nature, support. And so even those that reach out with a lot of clarity initially, you end up seeing like so much, again, untangling feels like the word today already, but like untangling of, oh, like what do I actually need? What kind of support do I actually need? And that can be like little surprises along the way. Um, for example, when we work with people as a doula, you work with someone to encourage them to speak to like what could be your quote unquote kind of ideal death. And you could get into, you could even untangle that as well. What even is an ideal death? But you can create space for people to say like, okay, well, this is how I want to feel, and this is who I want around me, and this is the kind of ritual I want to weave in or not weave in, and these are the medications I think that I want, and these I don't want as much or whatever. And then we often come up with like a plan A as like ideal. Okay, I want to be by the beach and like take my last breath with the waves and so on and so forth. But then as doulas, we learn to dial in like plan B, C, D, maybe even more. And just like, okay, maybe practicality wise, we can't make that happen based on physical needs, physical body things, and logistics.
Mm-hmm.
But how could we maybe really incorporate those same elements into the room and into the experience? And then, yeah, there's things that are little surprises along the way, and you just learn to adapt and listen and, yeah, be an anchor of support along the way.
I'm like, as I'm hearing you talk, I'm like, gosh, this sounds like childbirth. Like you need a plan A, B, C, D, and F with all the things. So
Exactly. The
It's
mirror, I
making
mean,
me
it's
think about,
so
oh,
powerful how much it mirrors each other. Yeah,
yeah.
Jeremy, here's your question.
uh, it's making me realize how much time we spend planning the funeral, but not the death.
Yes.
Mm,
Everybody plans their funeral. They don't plan what they're going to do before that.
that's so true.
That's right. Totally.
Maybe
And
we
some
should start
folks,
putting more forethought into what happens before the casket instead of after the casket. Because what
definitely.
does it matter after the casket?
Deep thoughts by Jeremy.
It's so true. And I
Yeah,
will even
that
say
literally
some
just came
folks,
to my mind as you were saying that. Yeah.
yeah, and some folks don't even plan their funeral either, and that's more common than you'd think. Yeah, people um truly even dying without knowing how they might want to go, and then the family is like left with trying to figure those answers out.
Right.
So,
And in those feelings of overwhelm of emotion too, it's very hard to do that. I've been in it before with like when my father passed away. That was that was a tough time. It was a sudden, so but just being going through that by myself was challenging.
absolutely.
It makes me want to ask you a question too, as I was hearing you talk. Obviously, everyone's situation is going to be different, right? Who you might be working with from a variety of reasons. Um, can you share maybe a couple of specific examples of something that you do, like so that people listening or watching can get like tangible, I don't know, like you know what I mean? Like where, okay, I get that. Like that's where you might be when this is happening, and this is what you might be doing if this is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I think of two big examples come to my mind of how differently it could look. But I just want to start by saying, like, you might think that you call on a death doula when someone is really actively dying, and you absolutely can, and I still highly encourage that. And if I like leave you all with anything today, it's that you can't call on one early enough. Whether someone is facing a terminal diagnosis, whether they're even before having a terminal diagnosis, whether there's someone who simply wants to confront their mortality in a way that, however old you are, however, wherever you are in life, that is even more powerful if you sit there and talk about these these elements of how you'd want your death to look and feel someday. Speak that to your family members, if you're ready, your friends, your community. And a death doula can really support that at any phase of life. Um, so that's just one thing I wanted to mention. And as a doula, you're kind of the center of your work is the actively dying person, if that's your client. And then you're kind of naturally helping the container of loved ones around them, and you're able to like to flow and support the orbit around them. But sometimes I got hired once to work with someone who, my first client, if they're listening, I think they'll know when they hear this, um, whose mother-in-law was actively dying. They heard about a death doula and they were like, "Oh my gosh, yes, I'm noticing my mother-in-law is dying and my family is having a hard time facing that reality, and she's her body's changing quickly." And she recognized the like urge to like kind of wake folks up and like, let's talk about this. And that's a really common sort of trigger, the elephant in the room that no one's talking about. And so she wanted to hire me to be her mother-in-law's doula. And there was a beautiful moment between us because I was like, oh, okay, well, if your mother-in-law doesn't want a doula, I don't want to force that on her, but I could be your doula. And so I started working with her, and we met once a week for a while, and she was able to just like off gas and process. And she did have like some educational questions where I can weave in some of my nursing um, knowledge, but it was so helpful for the family because then she had like this off gassing, and then she could be more present without projecting her fears. Um, and then I happened to be at her home supporting her the day that her mother-in-law had died. So I was able to like kind of hold the family. That was a
Mm.
profound moment and synchronicity.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and then there's other examples where folks call on you when their loved one is actively dying, or the person themselves speaks to, I want a death doula. And I've had beautiful experiences in that as well. And just many, I know I'm here with you all as a doula, but as, hospice RN slash death doula, I'm just like owning and integrating that. And because when I'm clocked in my nurse role, yes, I'm like passing meds and stuff, but I am bringing in those skills as a doula as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the physical side and the mental side of the
Yeah.
process where the hospice is the physical side, the doula is the mental side. Like you're really like helping people figure out their kind of personal philosophies so
Yeah.
that they can wrap up their stay here well, so to say.
Yeah.
That
And I would say,
it's really like you almost sound like a Jungian analyst in a way,
oh
like helping
gosh.
people do their shadow work. And I mean, it sounds similar. I'm not saying it's the same thing, but it definitely has like a similar feel to it where you're helping.
Adjacent.
I mean, staring down your own mortality. I mean, that's some real shadow work, as the Jungians would say. You know what I mean?
I do. I really
And
do. And I
a lot
love,
of people never do that work in their life, so it's an important thing if you're facing your own mortality like that to really realize who you are and what that means to you. So that's wonderful work. What what was the training like? Like going making that shift from the medical RN side to the more psychological doula side. What kind of training did that really entail?
yeah. Well, again, just starting with ourselves and deconstructing all of the programming that, you know, like I mentioned earlier, as a nurse, you're really trained to assess and fix, right? And treat. And so it's in my bones as in with my training, but it's in all of us, really. I mean, it's it's colonial. It's like to feel like we have kind of power and control over each other, or even over our own bodies, is a little bit of an illusion at times. And so, yeah, I hear you when you said a lot of like mental processing, but it's deeply spiritual in whatever ways that resonates with you. You know, even if you're not someone who identifies as a spiritual person, just this work is so, like you said, shadow work. That was a great way to put it. And so, recognizing your own shadows as a doula, right? Like you might be someone who feels very comfortable with death, for whatever reason. Maybe you're kind of wired that way, maybe through experiences you've been through. I myself felt that way. And then I went to the training, and I'll never forget, Elua led us through a death meditation where she
Oh,
basically guided us. Yeah, we were like, got comfy in a shavasana or some kind of seating, comfortable position. And she went through these contemplations of death, but like she brought us into a like a beta, like a meditative state to do so. And there were just little, I was like floating somewhere in between, as you do when you meditate sometimes,
oh yeah.
and like little
We know
pings
about
that,
that.
yeah, right, the little floaty state.
Oh yeah.
And there were these moments, these little pings that I was like, oh, like for instance, like she said, letting go of the material world, and went into that contemplation. And I was like, no, but I like pretty things, and I like my, and material also meaning the earth and our bodies. And so for me, that one like hit a little edge, but there's so many things to contemplate. The fear of the unknown, how and when and where it will happen, which is, I'd say, one of the biggest ones for folks, of like this idea of like not being in control and being so vulnerable, and then being still here on this earth, and like that one's a big one.
Do you work with, or maybe the question is, are a lot of the clients that you have, are many of them have like a terminal cancer diagnosis? Is that pretty common, or the most
Yeah.
common, or is it something that you're going to surprise me about?
Well, I will say this. I have had the honor to have a few clients as a quote unquote official death doula. And then I have a job at an end of life care facility where I'm a charge nurse.
Mhm.
And then one of my biggest um, things that I've come into that feels like such an honor and so clear of like what I'm meant to do is I actually am a doula to the doulas as well. Um, so
Everybody
I
needs a
got
doula, even the doulas.
yes. Yeah. So I just one thing I've been reflecting on before meeting with you all is just like it's an honor to be your first death doula here, and like to be a bridge, which ironically is one of the archetypes that comes up when you think about doula work in general, right? Like the bridge between the physical and beyond, um, and the medical system and beyond, and stuff like that. But I also feel like a bridge with you all right now, and hoping that you interview more death doulas that are even more boots on the ground, for lack of better, and like really have. There's so many wise, beautiful doulas out there, and I just want to like mention that. And my role lately has been feeling more like, okay, so there's all of us doulas who are trying to figure out how to have our business in this society and figure this all out, and we are so often holding space all the time for others. So who holds space for us? So I have a monthly gathering here in Portland where we all come and like
or other death
exhale.
doulas,
All the death doulas and death care workers. I even
Mhm.
in my
like
messaging,
hospice.
yes,
Hmm.
hospice chaplains again, or
Oh yeah.
plant medicine facilitators, or hypnotherapists, or anyone who's interested in death care. Yeah, we meet once a month and we exhale together, have tea, support each other. So
Yeah.
I got on a little
No,
side
that
quest
makes
there.
sense. Got to care for the caretakers, right?
Yeah, and it's got to be a strain on your own energy to be dealing with dying all the time. You know, death is a very heavy thing, and
Yes.
in a lot of ways. And if that's what you're doing for a living, you're dealing with it all the time, then yeah, you're gonna need somewhere where you can release that and kind of, reset yourself, right? Like it's kind of a reset of your energies.
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
to hold space for each other as well as being around your fellow homies who get it, like who you can just kind of, like really take off your hats as much as you can and just kind of be you. And that's my intention for all of us as we gather. And it's become really, really beautifully generative, and we co-create a lot. Like, so we have a signal chat, and there's like, hey, I have a referral for someone who specializes with this exact need. And so it's beautiful to see this like
It's like a network.
underground, yeah, like underground work becoming more and more, like shining a light on it, and like the way we network is it's really beautiful.
Are you seeing an increase in interest around folks looking for support of a death doula?
Totally. And even though I've only been in doula work a few years, even since my retreat training, yes, it feels like it's like, again, generative often feels like a word. Um, and then I've heard from other doulas who have been doing this longer, 10 years plus, that are like also reflecting that, like, wow, there's really something going on. And Portland's a beautiful hub for work like this. You might, in smaller towns across the country, you might not connect with a death doula. So another thing I'd like to leave folks with is like, if you're like super intrigued as you're hearing this podcast, like maybe you are the person in your hometown that looks into this, like, and or just searching out, which we'll leave some links in the chat, right, for some or in the
Oh yeah. Yeah, our show notes for sure.
Is this
yeah,
something you can train for remotely, like online, or is it,
yes.
you can totally do it from home?
You can
Oh,
totally do it online. You could do it in person, online. There are shorter trainings that like really have a nice like condensed, like this is the meat of what we do. There's longer trainings that go months long. So like you can kind of find there's pricier ones, there's more affordable ones. So I'd suggest yeah, finding one that feels right, and then just it's just so much a life path thing too. So really being in your own practice day to day, again, of your own mortality, and practice witnessing others, whether it's about death or not, just practicing holding space for one another and letting go of our own agendas, and just like giving people the microphone and then like moving from there, if that makes sense.
yeah. Have you found, or I mean, from what you were explaining, obviously you've worked with clients, but you also are a doula to the doulas. So I'm sure you hear a lot, right? You're hearing what they're talking about, what they're experiencing, maybe the work they're doing with their clients. Have you, or can you share like maybe some, maybe more bigger misconceptions that people might have about working with a death doula that you've either encountered personally, heard it through the grapevine sort of thing, through your kind of network? Just
Mm.
to trying to kind of remove maybe this stigma of weirdness. We cover a lot of weird on the show because we like it because we're weird. And
An expert in weird.
yeah, basically. And that's, a lot of what we try to do on the uprising, informing, educating, empowering people. And I think that's by having these kinds of conversations that like a death doula doesn't have to feel scary or weird, right? So, like,
Totally.
curious maybe what you've seen, heard.
Yeah. Something that's coming to mind with that question is first just naming that it is such a nuanced field that we're still like creating it as we go, alongside this work being deeply ancestral, deeply indigenous in its nature, and like our ancestors knew how to do this, right? They lived this way. And in the weird society that we live in now, yeah, there's an emergence of this work, and we're trying to figure out how to meet the needs and get paid, and
Yeah, gotta make a living.
eat and make, yes. And so there are people that volunteer their time, which is beautiful. There are many of us that, yeah, we are trying to make a living. So, that said, so when you to take away the stigma, I'd say encouraging people to, reminding people that they can make it however they want. So some people might be like, "Ooh, that sounds woo-woo. That's not for me." Uh, Um, you can literally work with a death doula to just be in the practical. Let's talk about advanced directives. Let's get my estate planning in order. Let's talk about like passwords and, yeah, where I want my belongings
The,
to go.
the passwords. That's a,
The pass
I'm telling you, the
That's
passwords.
a huge one that
There's
sneaks
so
up on
many.
people. Yes. So
Yeah.
um, there's a lot of practical things to sort out in this work. And so that might be what someone wants and needs. And they're like, I don't need the rest. I don't need to talk about ritual. I don't need to talk about anything. I want,
It's
um,
whatever. It's like build your own adventure, right?
yes,
Or choose your
totally.
own adventure. Yeah.
Yes. Or again, as we started this conversation with, maybe someone initially feels that way, and then maybe they're like surprised that, like, I don't know, there's just like, oh, that does sound nice. And I didn't think of that until I started working with a doula. But
Yeah.
a doula who's really moving through, yeah, centering the client will really, again, put their agendas aside and just listen to what the client needs, even if it's unexpected, as long as it's something that's doable.
Mm.
Um, Granted, there are doulas that make some amazing bucket list adventures come true, and that's another part of this work that can happen.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
We all have a bucket list.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we all do, live different lives and have our own set of experiences. And that is there like some sort of familiarity between the cases though? Like, are there stages to death? Like they talk about the stages of grief kind of thing that like everybody goes kind of through the same stages in that process. Is there
Yes.
kind of a rhythm? I'm not really sure how to ask this question, right?
That's a
But
good
Yes.
question.
is there like a rhythm to death? Are there like kind of a set process that you'll watch people go through as they pass kind of thing?
Definitely. No, I totally understand the question. I'm glad you're asking it. Yes, and every single body is so unique. And so there's so much another show that highlighted doula work is Dying for Sex, I believe it's called. If you
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. I've heard it's great.
It's really great. Highly suggest. And
Okay.
That's
the
quite the title.
yes.
Yeah.
I have no idea what
I,
to
Totally.
expect from that.
I think I was in their target audience being like female
Yeah.
because it centers around I think it's the one main character and like her best friend or something. And
Yes.
apparently there's death doula. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Wait, this is so cool. So not only the pit showcasing a death doula, which was more of a clinical setting, by the way, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody. Um, but then you have Dying for Sex as well. Okay, we'll have to put like links to those shows or something in our show notes, but
Yeah.
continue. Sorry to
And
digress
no,
there.
totally fine. And as I'm saying that, I am recognizing maybe her role wasn't specifically a doula, but there were like, if you watch it, you'll see there were
Okay.
had like an anchor of a friend, which you can be both. You can be both because you're naturally in that role sometimes when you're someone's like anchor of a best friend, and it will likely be supportive if you still have like a person who's not the friend or loved one that's in the doula role. So in this show, she had, I believe, a best friend, yeah, and then it was a provider that was kind of, it just again reminded me of a doula role.
Hmm.
And now I'm putting my foot in my mouth because I think that other person I was thinking of was a hospice nurse. So maybe
Oh,
that's my
well, we just
projection.
need to watch it. We'll just have to
But
watch the show.
yeah, but there was a scene that came up as we were talking of um this this provider just walking her through the physical stages and to take the scary out of it,
I
like the things that could
think I've seen a clip of that now that you're describing it. And she was kind of like very honest, if I
yeah,
recall, like
yeah,
very in your face, like this is the shit that you're going through. Like
yes.
I'm not sugarcoating it. Am I remembering that
You're
correctly?
totally right.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, and that can work for a lot of people and some people it might not. So obviously like that's part of the work is attuning to um does this person appreciate like really direct communication? Do I need to deliver it a little more gently?
Hmm.
Staying away from how's that word? Euphemisms? I can never,
Euphemisms.
Euphemisms. Yeah.
yes. Of like, oh, they're no longer with us. Like there's an
Uh,
encouragement in this work to say, to take out the stigma, right? And say,
hmm.
I've died, that can help. Even just saying that word can kind of help with dissolving some stigma. But yeah, in that scene, she was just like, here's what can happen. And here's how the body moves through this. Um, and yeah, there's a beautiful book called Gone From My Sight that every hospice team in this country is required to give as literature. It's written by Barbara Carnes, and you go through and Barbara walks you through the phases, which I won't go through fully right now, but just knowing there's months to years, there's weeks to months, there's days to weeks, and then there's like hours, there's minutes. You can really break it down. And
Wow.
again, everybody's so unique. So you might see someone presenting as if they're in the like hours to days, and then they might have this turnaround, and then they start eating again, and that can happen. Sometimes, however, there's a like a surge like birth. There's like a surge of energy that can be misleading that you're thinking, oh, this person's turning around, but it's their kind of last push, this surge of energy. Sometimes that can come with agitation, sometimes it doesn't, but there's some lucidity sometimes, and then they kind of go back into a minimally responsive state. But yeah, I highly suggest looking up that resource. And there's a timeline of like, okay, so they haven't eaten in 5+ days or drank fluid. They're barely responding, maybe fluttering their eyes open occasionally. Um, and their breathing is starting to change. Maybe their jaw has now even started to relax open and they have that open mouth, yeah, breathing. And then you're like, okay, we're looking at um, hours to days, for instance. Some folks can stay in that liminal space for days, and that's something that not everybody realizes. Um, does that help answer your question so far a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, the fact that there's whole books about it and everything.
Right. And I'm nodding
So
my head up,
there
by the
really
way.
is a process to it
I've seen
then.
it with my own eyes with multiple people. So my father-in-law, namely, who I watched die from terminal cancer over the course of weeks. So, and days and everything you described. I'm like, yep, I can literally was picturing it in my head, like could remember every single thing because we were sitting in that room in hospice watching it happen. So, and then like um my husband's grandmother as well. I was there when she actually died, when she literally took her last breath. So that's like another thing too. And weirdly, I'm very comfortable around people dying. Maybe I should be a death doula.
There you go.
Yeah.
This is maybe my new, I'm very comfortable in very like intense situations.
Mhm.
Where a lot of people will like lose their cool or like their emotions get the best of them. I'm like very like even keeled for the most part.
Totally.
Maybe that's my second career.
No,
There you go.
truly. I mean, listen to that. Listen, another thing that's beautifully reminded to each other in this work is yes, it is um really important to seek some training and if you're the person that gets called on during crisis, if you're the family member that people come to that knows how to anticipate folks' needs and just feels like, yeah, okay, people feel I'm a safe person, and you start to like get those reflections, like you're a doula kind of naturally. And I like to remind people that because I think it can be this like we can get into not feeling valid or official unless we have certain um, licensure, which, by the way, there is no licensing right now in the death doula world, but there are certifications you can get through, the main one being INELDA, International End of Life Doula Association.
Okay.
But you
We'll
don't,
include that in the
yes,
show notes.
but you also don't need to be to have that certification to show up in this work. Um, this could potentially be one of those like little edgy conversations that people have different, yeah, likely will have different opinions on. But I think something I'm deconstructing for myself and hearing others do the same is like, what is this need to feel like always like I have all these certifications and all of this stuff? And like, what's even more powerful is walking the walk, and getting like honest with yourself and showing up in your your relationships, how you want to be as a doula too.
Yeah. Yeah. And like to your point, like some people are just made for that kind of work and
Yeah.
are doing it anyway. Um, and that actually brings me to a thought here too. Just in thinking about how a death doula can help a family and the client, right? The person who is actually dying, through the end of their life.
Mhm.
Have you heard either from your own clients or again through some of the doulas that you're being a doula for, which I love that, by the way. It's always like taking care of someone's got to care for the caretakers, right? Um, can you recall anything like very specific? And you did tell that one story about the woman whose mother-in-law was passing away, and she ended up using you as her doula for because the mother-in-law didn't want it. But have you seen any, like, do you remember any specific examples where somebody was just like, wow, I'm so glad that I worked with you, or maybe somebody else, that like maybe might shock someone? Like that
Yes.
they had the things we haven't thought of, right?
Yes. I had chills as you asked that because
Oh, good.
I could think of multiple stories and things I've witnessed. But there's specific person that totally just like wanted to come through right now. So I'm going to speak to her, of course, without using her name. But I have a friend and colleague in this beautiful work whose name's Marcy Donaldson, and she has a business called End of Life Advocacy and Care, EOLAC. And she works with folks that come from out of state to Oregon from states where medical aid and dying is not legal.
That's right, because it is legal there in Oregon.
Yes. So in it, so these folks, this person I'm thinking of came from, I believe Michigan, or I believe it was Michigan. Anyway, and they landed here, and Marcy was like their anchor, or their bridge, actually feels like a better word, to get them to Portland. And then once landing, it's suggested if you have a terminal diagnosis to, seek hospice support. So she got admitted to hospice, and then she lived, sorry, at an end-of-life care facility here in Portland. And Marcy was like her sidekick. And they went on bucket list adventures. That was like the biggest thing that this woman didn't know she needed as much as she needed it. And they just like totally clicked, and they went on so many fun adventures, and just had so many meaningful conversations. And again, Marcy's also a nurse, so there was um, education without being in the nurse role. There's ways you can encourage the client to ask your hospice team for specific things. So like without being like too many cooks in the kitchen, but you're like, hey, nudge, nudge, I encourage you to ask about this medication or have this question. So yeah, that was a beautiful, beautiful experience to even just witness them working together. And I had the opportunity to, because I work at the place this person lived. So
Oh,
I had an opportunity to, in nursing, it's called post-mortem care. I like to call it body cleansing ritual, but when someone dies, you cleanse their body with love and care, bringing in maybe like elements that they have either spoken to, or you just know from knowing them, like, oh, they're like, you know, um, a very yogic person. So maybe when I cleanse their body, I'll honor the chakras along the way.
hmm.
Or,
Oh, I love that.
yeah, maybe they were very Christian, and there's an altar with elements of Jesus and that being honored. And so anyway, I got the opportunity to cleanse this person's body, and her sister was there. And as in my nurse role, but same, very much same in the doula world, is like you can tailor it to the family's needs, and the client's needs. So you can do the body cleansing yourself and like, I got this, I'll take care of this, and then have them all like nice and pretty in an outfit they've chosen, for the family to come in and have like a final moment. And but you can also bring in the family and have them wash the body, be able to touch the body, um, which can be really healing for folks sometimes. So the sister and I together, she was on one side of the body and I was on the other, and we went through and honored, you know, around her eyes, say like her forehead, thank you for all the beautiful things you've seen, coming down to the throat. Thank you for all the beautiful things you've spoken, and the times you've sang, and just going down the body and down to the feet. Thank you for all the beautiful places you've walked and been. And so her and I had this beautiful experience together, and there was another family member, sister-in-law, I think it was, that was in the room and in real time honored her truth and said, this is beautiful. This is too much for me. So I'm going to step out. So honoring people's, encouraging people to honor their nervous system and their body and their heart. And that's where that adaptability comes into play as well.
It sounds like a really beautiful ceremony that you just described. That's
Totally.
like that ritual that feels very ancestral.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, our
Wow.
ancestors used herbs and,
Hmm.
cleansed with, I have a little altar here for myself, like, and for those that aren't seeing, I'm holding up a little rosemary sprig and just, I think of my ancestors when I think of the body cleansing for sure. Thank you for
Or
saying
like
that.
burning sage. That's,
Yeah.
a lot of people use that for cleansing.
Mhm.
Palo Santo wood's good too.
Yep. There's another one. So
Yeah.
I've been
There you go.
known to sage a house or two,
Yeah.
maybe
Totally.
all of them.
Yeah.
Um, we all need a little bit of cleansing here and there, and also at the end of life, that makes so much sense. See, that's something I would love to have that.
There you go.
So, Jeremy, write notes, take notes, pass it on to
Yep.
my husband.
Ah,
I got you
well, we're all
too.
going to have death doulas now that we know that they're there.
I mean, yeah,
Because honestly, I think the only reason to not is that you don't know about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
And that's why I'm very glad that you've come on our show
yeah.
because
Yeah.
now more people will know about it.
That's what we're here for, to share the good work. And I am glad that it's becoming a part of some of the mainstream conversations through, these shows that we shared and podcasts like ours.
There you go.
So,
Before we wrap up, I do have one kind of like tangential loose end question.
oh, go for it.
Let's
You
hear it.
said you went and trained as a yoga teacher. Did you ever actually did you ever actually use that? And
Yeah.
more to direct to the point, does that come into play in your hospice and doula stuff?
You're on to me, Jeremy.
Ah, I do a
Totally.
lot of yoga. I kind of had a feeling.
Yeah, totally. Yes. I got the training in 2022. I have taught at a few different yoga studios here in Portland. I tend to love the ones that are very like brick and mortar, small, like um and then, I have a lot of like autonomy in what herbs I burn or what oils I might offer and stuff like that. So I have not in a little while, I haven't been at a certain studio because the ones that I have taught at sadly have had to close down. It was like a post-pandemic, just
Hmm.
trying to, yeah, not able to stay above water with the bills. Um, but I have had beautiful opportunities of retreats that I've hosted, one in Greece and some other
Oh,
local ones. Yeah, so
nice.
or workshops like little I love collaborating with folks. So like I did one workshop where it was myself, a breathwork facilitator, and a sound bath, sound
Oh,
practitioner, and we
hmm.
called it um movement breath sound. And the three of us held like a day retreat. Um, and yes, I
Oh,
absolutely bring those skills into this work. Like even when whether I'm at my nurse job, if I do have a doula client I'm seeing, or when I'm dueling the doulas, and we meet once a month at a place called the Grief House in North Portland. I love like making making tea for folks, and before we get started, like we set the container, I invite us to take some deep breaths, and there might be like a little meditation that I offer. So, yes, absolutely, Jeremy.
oh,
Cool.
sounds lovely. Well, with that, as we're just out of time, before we let you go, Dana, will you tell us if somebody was interested in working with you, what would be the best way to find you online? Where are you, or how to find you on social media?
Yeah, totally. So on Instagram, I'm at Dana the Death Doula, and there's like a little period in between each word. I recently stepped into that. I was like just my regular name prior, and I
Mhm.
was like, I'm a sucker for some alliteration, and I'm like, well, here I am.
This is what I do.
And I'm from a town called Dunmore. Shout out to my Dunmore homies, but Dana the Death Doula from Dunmore.
Nice. I love
I'm going to
it.
write a limerick about that later.
I would love to hear from folks who want to send me a message through that. Because another thing I'm exploring is grief support, whether in person or virtually, surrounding tea and herbs and how to work with herbs and plants to support your grief. There's many ways to do that. And so I'm exploring stepping into that soon as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. You'll have to come back and tell us about that once you're deep into it.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
I find that fascinating.
Yeah. I think we all need a little bit more grief support in this world. Unfortunately, there's a lot of grief out there. And I think as humans, we tend to suppress.
Yes.
Right? I'm okay.
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
So much grief, so much individual, ancestral, collective, acute grief. And yes, supporting each other, carving out the time, finding spaces to support each other.
Yeah. I'm all for it. Well, thank you so much. This has been a very enlightening conversation, the first of its kind here on the Uprising. And I do hope that we get more death doulas. So certainly send some of them our way if you have anybody who wants to come, because the more we talk about this, right, the more accepting it becomes and the less of the stigma exists out there. So that's what we try to do here, I think. Yeah. So
yes, you do so beautifully. I love what you've been doing. Thank you so much for having me. And I am definitely going to shout from some rooftops about your podcast and bring some death doulas your way.
Yes, please. Yeah, we appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on the Healthcare Uprising. Make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons before you go, and take a moment to think of a friend and hit that share button. You can find us on all the major audio platforms, and we've got video on YouTube if you want to watch us in action.
You can also find us on social media on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. Just search Healthcare Uprising to find us. And if you're a new company with a cool new product, if you're someone innovating alternative methods for the health and wellness space, or if you have a personal healthcare journey you'd like to share with us here at the Uprising, please email us at healthcareuprising@gmail.com. And we'll get back to you about coming on the show. Well, that's all for this dose of Healthcare Uprising. Until the next time, keep looking for the good in the world, because sometimes it's where you least expect it.
We are not doctors and we don't play one on TV. If you need medical advice, consult with your physician or a healthcare professional. This has been a Shut Up production.
Shut